federal government directs payment of February salaries to facilitate travels for the elections.
Diplomatic community receives briefing on preparations for rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections.
We will not accept any excuses or any other reason. They have to be held on Saturday.
Chief of Army Staff warns personnel against acts inimical to national security.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall look at the Nigerian electorate and the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections.
The uproar that greeted the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections earlier scheduled for the 16th of this month appears to have subsided as Nigerians are now prepared, as it were, to give INEC the benefit of the doubt ahead of the rescheduled elections now taking place on Saturday, the 23rd.
Yes, Kingsley, there have been ventilations of anger and disappointment from various individuals, political parties, candidate groups, and even the government, who say they were taken by surprise when the elections were put forward.
Yes, of course, the elections were postponed. And all attention right now is on Saturday, which is just about 48 hours away, when Nigerians will hopefully exercise their franchise as the Electoral Management Body has again reassured the nation that it is good to go and that the elections will certainly take place beginning on Saturday.
And you, our viewers, would have been following our program since Monday, where we looked at various aspects of the preparations for the rescheduled elections, including logistics, security, and others. But this morning, we intend to focus on the electorate as we look at how they are preparing for the elections.
That's right, Jumai. Now, many Nigerians had traveled for the elections, and some of them, of course, had to return to base. Will they go back to vote? And for those who had made up their minds on who to vote for, is there any change of mind after the postponement? In any event, how are the voters being remobilized for the elections?
Critical questions you have raised there, Kingsley. Perhaps it is also important to ask if the recent campaign window has impacted on the electorate and whether or not the voters feel safe and secure to go out and vote the candidates of their choice.
That's right. That's certainly our line of inquiry this morning, as we have been talking about different aspects of getting out the vote on Saturday. As we begin the countdown, of course, to the rescheduled elections. It's on that note we'd like to welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you as always on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Jumai Yusuf. Good to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria, broadcast live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority in Abuja. As always, the complimentary part of the program shall be brought to you, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. This morning's news is right now with Stella Inamiti. Hello, Stella.
Good to see you, Jumai and Kingsley. Good morning. Here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has described as disheartening and counterproductive the way and manner few privileged individuals in Nigeria were significantly enriched following systematic abuse of power over the decades, thereby making the nation's majority poorer and undeserved. Speaking at the swearing-in ceremony of the newly appointed permanent secretaries, the president said more than ever, the country needs vibrant, professional, and selfless servants to overcome her pressing challenges.
We develop policies and provide strategic direction for the nation. However, the task of implementing these policies and strategies rests in the hands of the civil service under the able guidance of the permanent secretaries. Therefore, I wish to take this opportunity to solicit your support and cooperation as we implement all the programs of government in a result-oriented manner.
Following the postponement of the elections, INEC now reports to Nigerians on a daily basis to intimate them on the level of preparations ahead of the D-Day. Mia Ugidi reports that INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu briefed the media on the level of preparation so far on Wednesday.
That having moved the sensitive materials to the 37 states and the Federal Capital Territory, the forward deployment to the 774 local government areas nationwide will commence today, Wednesday, 20th February 2019.
The federal government has ordered the immediate payment of February's salary to its civil servants across the country. This is to make it easy for those that have to travel for the purpose of exercising their franchise in the rescheduled general elections. Information Minister Lai Mohammed announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Federal Executive Council.
The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, with over 50,000 members and who control about 80% of all petroleum distribution network. They announced a reduction of the price of petroleum motor spirit from 145 naira per liter to 140 per liter.
The economy is on a path of growth. Of course, we are not where we ultimately want to get to, but all the indices are very positive.
And from Thursday, February 21st, 2019 to Monday, the 25th, eligible voters willing to travel to their respective localities to vote will now have to pay only half the cost of the transportation fare. This 50% reduction in transportation fare is the contribution of the National Union of Road Transport Workers towards a successful election. The decision by the leadership of the union is in respect to the postponement of the presidential and National Assembly elections rescheduled for Saturday this week.
Directs all our state councils to immediately pass the information round to the whole 36 state council, including Abuja, that starting from tomorrow, the 15% deduction should be made to anybody that is traveling to vote.
NURTW urges INEC to release electoral materials to their drivers early enough to avoid delays on the election day. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, has directed officers whose loyalty is in doubt to resign within 3 days. The Army Chief gave the directive while addressing officers at a meeting preparatory to the February 23rd rescheduled 2019 elections.
Should any officer or soldier have doubts as to his loyalty to the Nigerian state as presently constituted, such a person has up to the 22nd of this month to resign. There is no room for indiscipline or disobedience to lawful orders in the Nigerian Army today.
Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyema has met heads of diplomatic missions and international organizations accredited to Nigeria for an interaction on the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections. The minister assured the world that Buhari's administration remains committed to elections that will meet international standards.
Mr. President and all Nigerians absolutely demand that on Saturday, elections should be held. We cannot accept, and we will not accept, any excuses.
We have no reason to feel that anything will go wrong. We've received all the materials. They are being checked, audited.
We are going to be professional. We are going to be impartial. And we create a enabling environment for all the political parties.
That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Jume after this break.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live from Abuja. Economic experts call for more presence of private players in the power sector to drive the economy. Let's join Joe Uzo for details.
It's good to have you join us on Business News.
Power undoubtedly is one of the critical necessities needed to stimulate the economy of any country. For Nigeria, infrastructure deficit has been a thorny issue for government in bridging the gap of jobs and service delivery. Experts say the level of commitment by the present administration to improve the sector will be complemented if additional presence of private participation is felt. Government is encouraged to consider other alternative sources of energy, especially renewables, to shore up supply that is still not sufficient for needs.
The very civilized and functional countries have, as a matter of fact, keyed in. You know, we had proposed coal-to-power projects in Nigeria, and those are the sort of, renewable energy projects that can ease the power supply issues that we have in Nigeria. So the government needs to still look inwards to ensure that they encourage players in the renewable energy, sector and find a way to support them. Those will be really good ideas to ensure that there are more players.
And to equities, players in the capital market say the Times suggests it will be beneficial for the economy if local investors take advantage of the low prices of stocks and invest on listed companies. Mr. Shende Adenagbe, in an interview with Business News, while giving an assessment of what Nigerians should expect from the markets, noted that activities might appear cloudy now, but will pave way for better days after the elections.
The stocks, they will remain, but not at these low prices. So if they don't come in now to buy, by the time the storms are over, they may not get these stocks to buy at these low prices. That is so key. 2, I also advise them to buy now because the company's results are coming out. And if you buy before the closure of the register, you'll be beneficiary of whatever they're going to declare as profit or dividend.
Given reason for the bullish trend recorded in equities for the week, he expressed confidence that the market will witness a resurgence of foreign portfolio investors soon, despite all odds, due to the good returns offered by Nigeria. And now a quick check on how the equities market fared this Wednesday. That's Business News. Many thanks for your time. I'm Joy Uzo. Do enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package. Newspaper Review is up next for us on the program.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atiobi, is in the studio. You're welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Jume. Thank you. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Bayo, good to see you.
Good to see you.
You think this is the end, today is the end of the week or something?
No. Just probably holiday tomorrow.
That's right.
Not for you, essential service workers.
Definitely not for us.
And bankers are exempt.
And bankers. Yes, that is to ensure that those who are to get their pay today and tomorrow will get paid.
Get paid, that's right. That's work-free day, the eve of the rescheduled elections.
Yes.
Juma, let's begin with you since you have
Sir.
two
And we're starting with the leadership here. Below the masthead, we have a story. We will uphold Supreme Court ruling on Rivers APC, says INEC, with a rider at Nigeria's ATM transaction hit 39 trillion. That's on page 29. The headline says, polls, we are good to go, INEC declares. That's on page 4. With a rider warns against fake results, say all card readers have been reconfigured. FG wants foreign observers to be neutral. President APC arm twisting security electoral umpire, says PDP. Brote orders commanders to effect PMB's directive. And by the sidebar, we have NAF sustains onslaught on Boko Haram, destroys terrorist camp. And then we have riders at the bottom plate. Again, appeal court fails to hear Onogen's appeal. That's on page 6. Nigeria records 37 new cases of Lassa fever on page 6. Nigeria malls reducing oil output for higher prices is on page 4. PMB directs payment of workers' salary. That's on page 2, and I'm sure some people have been getting a lot. Kinsley. Akwa Ibom unveils Ibom Air, takes delivery of 2 aircraft. That's from the leadership.
All right, let me take a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. The Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story, of course, is still on the elections, and it says with a kicker, Buretai will treat electoral saboteurs as enemies of state. With a rider, don't drag military into politics, PDP tells Army Chief. The story continues on page 5. And below that lead story, you have an illustration there of how voter turnout shapes Nigeria's elections. Details can be found on page 12. You have, of course, this has been since 1999. The turnout for 1999, according to the information there, is 52.3%, 2003, 69.1%, 2007, 57.47%, 2011, 53.7%, and 2015, 43.65%. But if you want to discuss this, there are some points to note with regard to the voter turnout and the figures on the years that have been included. Because some of the years, of course, were just, in some cases, dealing with fictitious figures of either registered number of voters or the votes actually counted in terms of the results that were manipulated. Now, below the nameplate of the Daily Trust newspaper, 3 headlines there. How I opened account for Honore with $30,000. That's according to a lawyer. Details can be found on page 3. And JAMB postpones Saturday's mock examinations, also on page 3. And industrial sector got 6.2 trillion naira loans in 4 years. That's on page 17. Bayo.
Yes. Let's start with the figures you identified. Apart from 1999, which had about 59% turnout, which was low, it is only in 2011 and 2015 that you have very low turnout. And in those 2 years, by some strange coincidence, there were rescheduled elections. And that's why there's been a lot of anxiety that's been raised about this rescheduled election. But however, there are tremendous incentives. The federal government has declared Friday work-free. This is to allow Nigerians return to their polling unit to ensure that they participate in the presidential and National Assembly election. They're announcing the public holiday. The Permanent Secretary Minister of Interior, Barrister Georgina Huria, said it is to encourage citizens to meet their electoral responsibility to the nation. Those providing essential duties, however, and bankers are excluded. Never have there been incentives for any elections like we are having here. National Union of Road Transport Workers, 15% rebate for anybody traveling by way of transport fare. Independent petroleum marketers reduce pump price to 140 naira per litre. Another faction of them is denying that. NUPEM has promised uninterrupted petrol supply. One airline has promised 50% rebate for election period. Provide your PVC and you enjoy that. Another airline says 16,000 naira flat rate all through the location, the period of the election. There are other requirements, however. In all instances, you have to provide evidence of your permanent voter's card to ensure that you are actually going, not on a holiday, but to go and vote. This is what I call the silver lining that has ensued from the disappointment of the election. Civil servants are to be paid their February salary with effect from today and tomorrow. This is to ensure that all systems go and everybody has no inhibitions towards it. INEC yesterday gave indications that it has attained 100% smart card reconfiguration. And by implication, it means that smart cards will switch on 8 a.m. on election day and will function up to 10 p.m. when it will automatically switch itself off to forestall any illegal use. Sensitive materials have been moved to locations at central bank batches across the nation. In fact, INEC chairman indicated they've been moved. Less sensitive materials have already gotten to the 774 local governments. Meanwhile, INEC says we have no reason to believe that anything except an act of God will stop the election slated for Saturday. INEC made this pronouncement during a briefing for diplomatic community and international election observers. The INEC commissioner who represented the commission said that INEC developed a 6-point agenda for what needed to be done, and everything has gone on schedule. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, used the occasion to enjoin a respect for the sovereignty of Nigeria. He said the nation welcomes partnership and support. However, they should not be allowed to, Nigeria should be allowed to solve their internal challenges herself. Undue interference and being dictated to would not be allowed. As a sovereign nation, the line should not be crossed in exalting Nigeria. So all hands are there. But there is an indication reported by leadership. Leadership reports that from ECB 8 meant for Kano was found at Central Bank Dubai in Ibadan yesterday. It was documented, returned to INEC official, and moves are already underway to take it back to Kano. In another report, an NGO identified as Citizens for Change and Advancement says materials for 4 states, Taraba, Cross River, Ebonyi, and Benue, have not arrived at the central bank locations in those states.
Yeah, Bayo, that's a very important aspect that you have raised with regard to the deployment of sensitive and non-sensitive materials. There are still instances, as reported, where materials intended for certain locations have been found elsewhere. Kano, Gombe, Lagos, elsewhere, especially as the result sheets or the sensitive materials are customized for local governments, you know, for the states and of course for the particular elections. We do hope that some of these teething problems at the last mile will be resolved, so you don't get to some polling booths, because the overall picture that INEC is painting now is one of readiness. They have reconfigured, according to them, the smart card readers, but the sensitive materials, the result sheets, and every other thing else that is relevant to the elections, they must ensure that as they begin the distribution of those materials, that any material that doesn't belong to a particular location is returned immediately. And let's get it done, because
yes.
If you have complaints again on Saturday, people are going to start asking questions. Yes. What you spent the past 7 days doing.
Actually, those mix-up were the main factors that led to the last postponement. But accordingly, what they did in retrieving the material, they ensured that all materials were specifically located to the central bank, particularly this very sensitive material, central bank in those states. So you won't have materials, sensitive material crossing states. And now, what they did in sorting them out is to make sure that they were sorted out according to specific local government and to specific ward areas. So those problems, hopefully, may have been overcome now.
Hopefully, that's what we hope
all right.
for.
Bayo, still, I know that you have the Daily Sun newspaper. Yes. Bayo, I want to return to the Daily Sun infographics, yes, which has to do with voter turnout that shapes Nigeria's election. Yeah, you were talking about how the postponement of the elections in 2011 and 2015 affected voter turnout. That's a valid point to make. But my proposition always is, knowing how voters register often was manipulated before 2011. Yes. People had temporary voters cards, and the cards were easily transferable. There were reports, if you recall, of persons having their own voter registration points either in the confines of their homes or otherwise. It wasn't until 2011 that we started seeing, if you like, a cleanup of the voters register. And the kind of tendencies that we used to see up until 2007, when the then elected president, Yar'Adua, indicated that, look, the elections that brought me into office were flawed, you know, and part of the flaw, of course, had to do with the manipulation, first of the voters register, and the outlandish figures that were allocated to candidates. So a baseline figure will be from 2011, in my opinion. Take 2011, take 2015, and then we'll begin to see how that plays out. But the point you talked about with regard to a shift and then the apathy, if we see what happens on Saturday this weekend, and of course there will be validity to the proposition that once you have a shift in the polls, then you are likely to have a knock-on effect of apathy.
Yes, you're right. But even for the voters register that was used for the 2015 elections, INEC has embarked on a cleanup. And as at 2015, the voter register had about 70 million voters. After the cleanup, we had 69,720,350. And following the continuous voter registration, so far, those that have received their PVC, INEC chairman reported 76% have collected their PVC. So that is bringing about another 30 million voters to the call. About 10 million will now have to be returned to central bank vaults. So you now have an average of about 70, almost about 71 million voters expected for this general election. So that will, however, it must be pointed out that there are several incentives now that have been provided. All these incentives by the pump price, transport fare, public holiday, salary at the time, this will go to encourage more people, and the fears of apathy that is naturally goes with the rescheduled elections may be reduced considerably.
Thank you, Bayo. We now go to the Daily Sun, where we have, beside the masthead, lawyer challenges AGF on alleged 30,000 bribe to Onoge, which a rider claims witch hunt over 3.1 Paris Club fraud expose. That's on page 4 and 5. And then we have the headlines. February 23rd, sacrosanct for polls, says FG, which a rider again warns international community. That's on page 4 and 6. We have a picture message there. INEC staff sealing packages containing sensitive materials for rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. At the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Port Harcourt, yesterday. We have by the sidebar APC won't field candidates in Rivers. INEC, which a rider says Supreme Court had already decided party's fate. That's on page 6. My government won't be run by cabal, by Atiku. That's on page 2. And at the bottom plate, Araria traders assured me of 65% victory for Buhari APC Kalu. That's on page 3.
Well, security agencies have been directed to ensure safety of life and property before, during, and after the general election. The Chief of Army Staff also held a strategic meeting with commanders and field officers yesterday. General Tukur Buratai ordered commanders to deal decisively with ballot box snatchers, thuggery, and other electoral crimes during the election. He says that the antics of politicians, as witnessed in previous election, should not arise. He says commanders are to deal decisively with electoral crime and acts that are inimical to national security. He says commanders and personnel should not hobnob with politicians at any level. No military escort for any politician, and all army personnel should stay clear of retired military officers, especially those who have are now participants in the electoral process. Nigerian Army is a professional army. Any officer or soldier with doubts to his loyalty to the Nigerian state has up to 22nd of February to resign. He says there is no room for indiscipline and disobedience of lawful orders. So that is strict instructions to members of the armed forces. However, the Joint Admission and Matriculations Board says its mock examination that was originally scheduled for February 23rd will not hold. This is because of the coincidence. The same day we are now holding the presidential and National Assembly election. However, there's no pronouncement about the main exam, which is scheduled for March 16th to March 23rd. The board is still contemplating, still meeting, and have not decided whether or not it will hold that day or it will be shifted. Yeah,
because the governorship and state House of Assembly elections are due on the 9th.
Yes.
That's just about a week before the main examination. Let's take our editorial this morning from the New Telegraph newspaper, and it's at page 15. Security agencies and 2019 polls. The editorial begins that as tempers rise ahead of rescheduled elections, it has become imperative for our security agencies to perform their constitutional duties more professionally and with greater efficiency to protect the nation's democracy. It also adds that our legal system frowns at extrajudicial killings, but grants the power of arrest of erring individuals, professional investigation, and diligent prosecution before courts of competent jurisdiction.
Well, it's a big challenge for the security agencies. The main security agency that is meant for election is the police. And because we have about 330,000 policemen, which is inadequate to man the 12,558 constituencies across the country. They are now to be supported by other paramilitary personnel. However, the armed forces, the soldiers, are also to provide peripheral security to support the police to ensure that people can come out and vote freely. The editorial is happening on the challenges of balancing, providing security, and also not intimidating the electors with overt presence of security men. They enjoin security men to balance the act of ensuring that those who indulge in ballot box snatching that could be endangering their life with the requirements of the law so that it doesn't appear like extrajudicial killing. All the editorial is saying that the security agencies have a duty to protect the territorial integrity of the nation, maintain the integrity of the electoral process, and also be lawful by not indulging in extrajudicial killings.
Aya, thank you very much. We'll see you again tomorrow. And of course, just to restate that formal campaigns for the presidential and National Assembly elections will close by midnight today.
Tomorrow.
Today,
yes.
Today is Thursday, not tomorrow.
It's Thursday, 24th. Midnight 24th of...
and I'm sure that voters in some states will be watching out to hear which of their state governments will also direct the payment of their salaries before the elections on Saturday. Okay, bye, TV. See you tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll get ahead with our topic for discussion this morning.
If you are just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we're discussing the level of preparedness of the electorate on the rescheduled presidential and National Assembly elections. And we have put together a panel of discussants from various backgrounds. But before we get to meet them, let's hear what Nigerians are saying about the rescheduled elections.
I don't feel too good because I went to my village initially to vote, and then the election was postponed. I came back. My village is all the way to south from here. I don't have that kind of transport to go back again to vote. So I'm not going to go back to vote. And I didn't register here.
This postponement now has gingered me up. I'm going there to vote tomorrow. I'm traveling tomorrow, first thing in the morning.
The decrease in the price of the fuel. But my problem is, so does that mean they can bring such a good something for the Nigerians? Why is it happening for now?
Thank God that this election was postponed. So it gave people like us opportunity, to vote the person that we love.
I want to encourage them to go and vote because it's their right. This is their power. This is their power. Let them go and exercise their power as a Nigerian to go and vote. Go back again. Whatever it will cost you to go and vote, go back and vote. It is your right.
We are praying that let this Saturday be reality. That is the thing.
All right, some Nigerians there, amongst them potential voters, expressing their views on the elections now taking place in just about 48 hours from now. Well, with us in the studios to discuss the topic, let's welcome familiar faces on Good Morning Nigeria. First, Dr. Ernest Ereke, who is on the Department of Political Science at the University of Abuja. Dr. Ereke, pleasure to have you again on the program.
Thank you very much.
Also here with us, Mr. Bola Bakare. Bakare is of Truth Be Told Network. Bakare, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we also have in the studio Dr. Law Mefo. He is forensic and social psychologist and also a journalist. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
And here in the studio is Dr. Usman, CEO, Center for Legislative Studies in Africa and Associate Professor of Political Science. And from Jos, we have retired General Jean Temlong, governorship candidate of the Action Democratic Party in Plateau State. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, gentlemen, once again, pleasure to have you. As we said, just 48 hours. A few days ago, the air was filled with all kinds of foreboding and, of course, anger and displeasure and, if you like, disgust. But here we are, virtually now on the eve of the elections. what is the mood like from your own perspective? Some would say that the political parties have tended to cry more than the voters who are the ones that actually should be mobilized to sort of get out the vote, and let's see what happens on Saturday. Let's begin with Lawmefo.
I listened to the voice pop, and the 4 or 5 Nigerians interviewed there actually represent, 5 categories or so of Nigerian voters. Those who are really determined to vote, no matter what happens. Those who are undecided would vote if the conditions are good and they're going. And then those who wouldn't, they just wouldn't, no matter what. Our emphasis must be on those who, are marginal, they are undecided. They would want the condition to be right to enable them vote. Unfortunately, or fortunately, they constitute quite a sizable number, if not the majority. Now, from psychological perspective, when you have this kind of postponement, right, you have what we call differential carryover effect. What that means is that people expect that there may be another postponement. In other words, people are not fully mobilized within them because they are not sure. That is interrogating the integrity of the process itself. Issue of trust now comes in. What does that tell you, and where does that leave us? You need to rebuild confidence, and I think that is what is going on. And of course, the incentives being provided now, even though some people are querying why are the incentives coming now. But the important thing is that the incentives are coming. Airlines are giving rebate. The National Union of Road Transport Workers are giving a rebate. And even salaries may come a little earlier. I think these are all trying to get the voters to forgive and go one more time. And I think, for me, from what I have seen, majority of Nigerians would try to vote again. I'm optimistic about that.
That's a good one. And has there been a shift in the polity? I'm still staying with you. Has there been a shift in the polity?
Well, I think my problem with the whole process is the political actors themselves. The 2 major political parties haven't actually encouraged us enough. They've not been inspirational enough. The kind of language, very inelegant language, spewing from both sides, unprintable words, name-calling, things you expect should not be, gutter language, let's put it that way, coming from both sides. The polity, I believe, is a bit shaky for me. You know why I say so? The kind of confidence we expect that they would have given us, Nigerians, right? Reassuring us, never allowing us to take away the feeling of do or die, because that is what the whole thing is appearing to become, is the problem. So if you want to know whether there is a shift in polity, what I would say is that there is a balance still, because you can't say that APC or PDP is the one benefiting from the postponement, as far as I am concerned, because both are crying wolves. Equally crying and blaming the other as the one instigating, the postponement in order to benefit, take undue advantage. For me, I think that not much has changed, really, except the colossal loss, where I blame INEC because the problems they enumerated as responsible for the postponement were, for me, avoidable. And I'm not against postponement. Of course, we have had postponements before, but there is a difference between this one and the ones we have had before. The timing, the nocturnal postponement. Everybody had gone to bed waiting to wake up in the morning to go and vote, and you postpone. You could have done that days before. That would have saved a lot of cost, especially on the electorates, and of course on the political parties who had to mobilize their agents, their supporters to go to the polls. A lot of money went into it.
All right, Dr. Lawmefo, thank you very much. Incidentally, I mean, as we said in our opening banter, all through this week, we have focused, and before today, focused on a re-examination of the matters arising from the postponement. Yesterday, we were discussing operational and logistic issues with our experts from all fields. Let's bring in Bola Bakare, who is president of Truth Be Told Network. What is the truth about the attempts to remobilize voters for the elections on Saturday? But are the voters getting convinced, or there's still some lethargy?
Thank you, Kingsley, and I like that language, the factor of truth, because truth matters. I would like Nigerians to tag along three principal lines. There are three parameters here: INEC, the political parties, and the voter. As we speak, INEC owes Nigeria a lot. As we speak, there is voter apathy, serious voter apathy. It might be financial, it might be psychological, it might be sentimental. Partisan politicians will always follow their parties anywhere, any day, anytime. That is why I want to bring a factor to the fore, which the chairman of INEC never did. I want to throw him a truthful challenge. Nigerians were asking you to do something that is sentimental. All it takes is, I am sorry this happened. He never did. All it did was an institutional regret. Me, chairman, and my commissioners, we regret this happened. That does not go well psychologically with the average person. I will run an inference to Jaga. In Anambra, one of the officers, the returning officers, was kidnapped in Idemili, which created a situation of supplementary elections the next day. Honestly, I went on air. I berated Jaga that, Jaga, you owe Nigerians an apology, personal apology. Honestly, Jaga went on air 48 hours afterwards. That was the day I said, that man is #1 gentleman in Nigeria. We expected Jaga. People kept saying it. Why don't you say you're sorry? Why don't you say you're sorry? He kept saying institutional sorry is different from personal sorry. You are the chairman of INEC. If we had done that, honestly, we did a survey. Some of the Nigerian voters that had that apathy towards INEC will have been assuaged. But he didn't do that. Let's leave INEC aside. Let's talk about the political parties. What we are seeing now is proper, normal dynamics of politicking. A will say this, B will say that. We're talking about the two majors now, though there are very many of them. But the two majors are our main concern. And we have to deal with them. Like my brother rightly said, they're having a good fisticuff in terms of words, choice of words, and this and that. They are not helping matters. But at the same time, you can't stop them from shouting louder than the next man, because that is the way our politics is being played. I will leave the political parties alone because let them do whatever they can. But the most important factor is we, the voters. Now that we, the voters, are part of the big picture as we speak, how do we take care of the apathy? How do we bring them back on the streets? How do we tell them, for God's sake, you have a right to exercise your right? One Jaga, tell them you're sorry. That will reduce the apathy. Political parties.
Not Jaga.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mahmoud Yakubu, tell Nigerians you're sorry. That will assuage the apathy. Political parties, for God's sake, don't heat up the polity any longer. Politicking is about grassroots politicking. Go meet them house to house and tell them, I am here, I am your person, for God's sake, vote for me. Don't come on air like my brother said and start using foul languages that are very, very inciting. We are preaching nonviolence, free, fair, credible. Security is a major part of it. And the principals have a job in this. The element of a peace accord. I ran an inference to our last elections. I said, the moment Buhari and Jonathan hugged on air, most of the followers said, oh, if our principals can do this, let us play it down a little bit. And that transpired when Jaga was reeling out the results. And the likes of Urubebe came out and said, you can't do that, you can't do this. Jega kept his cool because he felt the two principals are at peace with one another. And I guess we should practice that as we speak. Translate your feelings to the voter, translate your feelings to the followership so that we can have a free, fair, and violence-free elections. And for my voters, please, 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 and please, you cannot say Allah Akbar with your mouth closed. You cannot say Hallelujah with your mouth closed. Most of them are social media freaks. There is no way you will exercise your right on social media. Like one of my friends do say, there is no polling unit on social media. So you go out. Don't keep quiet. Don't say Allah Akbar. Don't say Hallelujah with your mouth closed. Go out there and exercise your right by voting. And for God's sake, play down on your social media banters. In most cases, are fake news. I pause.
All right, Bola Bakare, thank you very much. It says there's no polling unit on the social media.
But that is where the campaign
Dr.
has
Ernest,
shifted to.
yeah, well, that's campaign, that's campaign, not voting.
Yes.
Campaign, not voting. Well, of course, we know we have 4 guests here.
Yes.
We also have a guest in Jos. Just before we bring in Dr. Ereke and Dr. Mohammed Usman, let's go over to Jos, where we earlier introduced retired Brigadier General John Temlong. Of course, he is active, is a candidate of the Action Democratic Party in Plateau State, a governorship candidate. General Temlong, give us a view from the field after the letdown of last weekend. How challenging has it been to re-energize the voters and get out the vote on Saturday and then on the 9th of March?
Thank you very much, Kingsley, for that question. You understand that there was a build-up to the election itself, which was the climax to all the politicking that was going on. And here you have a situation where people had traveled out to their villages, to their various voting areas. And somewhere in the night, as if it's the coming of Jesus Christ, in the midnight, there was an announcement, sudden announcement that the election has been postponed. People woke up in the morning to a very rude shock. That became an anticlimax in itself. And like somebody rightly pointed out, the way it was announced as if the voters do not even matter. It was just the institutions that was regretting what happened. I believe we should have done something more important than that. I mean, 72 hours to time, any organization would have known that if it has logistical problems, it will not be able to meet its target. It will know that. It wouldn't be up till 12 midnight or till about 6 hours or 9 hours to voting that you'll be able to know that you will not be able to carry out voting because of logistic problems. So as it were now, the voters have gone back. Some became very difficult for them to travel back to their various locations. You will know that some of them were mobilized by the political parties, especially the students. And you could see the enormous amount of money that was deployed or resources that were deployed by those political parties to move the less privileged or the less fortunate ones in the society to their voting units. And those political parties and individuals incurred so much loss that decided to abandon those students and the less privileged people in their polling units or in their villages without bringing them back. They had to start borrowing money left, right, center for the students to go back to their schools. Now you are saying they should go back again. Mobilization, yes, but where are the resources going to come from? For the political parties who are not in government, for the individuals who have tried their best to move these voters down to their voting points. You said you are going to pay salaries. How many Nigerians are on government tickets or government salaries that have been paid? And like you rightly pointed out, we hope the state governments will pay, but then how many workers, like in Plateau, how many workers, out of 2-something million voters, we don't have up to 1/4 of them that are on government salaries. So how do they move down to their locations? Now we have these incentives that have been provided by some well-meaning organizations and the rest. But then the incentives are there. but do the people actually have the capacity, even with the incentive, to move? So the problem of even mobilizing the people to go, yes, they are willing to go, but there are real logistics problems on the ground because you cannot give what you do not have. The capacity of these people to move and get mobilized again is very limited. We know the situation in this country now, and I don't know whether those incentives will do, but we are urging them, and we are praying that people will go out of their way, even if it means fasting for 2-3 days to be able to save money to move down and go and exercise their franchise, because the important thing is that you cannot complain if you do not take part in electing your leaders. You will be shortchanged. It is important that Nigerians go and exercise their rights and tell Nigerians and urge Nigerians to do what they can, what it means, borrow money if you can, and make sure that you move and go and exercise your franchise and choose leaders that will bring us out from this stalemate. And for goodness sake, we want to urge INEC too. Why should we continue with this voting pattern that we inherited since 1999 or since independence? People have gone out, and voting has become seamless, less painful, less cumbersome, including less travels and the rest. Why can't we do that? Why are we reinventing the wheel? The wheel has been invented already by those who brought democracy. Let us adopt those wheels to make voting seamless, to make it less cumbersome, to make it less expensive. And this sort of hitting of the polity that is going on will be reduced. Because you see, our major problem is that there is a thin line between national security and regime security. And we're taking sometimes regime security to mean national security. And that's why you hear all those sort of things coming out. I mean, voting is something, it's a fundamental right of individuals. And the right to life is universal. It's not just a Nigerian thing. And there are international courts and criminal courts that deals with right to life. And we must exercise our fundamental rights without being intimidated, without fear of somebody coming around us with guns, welding here and there. No. Voting is a civic responsibility, and we do not have to have guns around us chasing us. No. You should walk civic, go and vote, and there are provisions in the law that provides for people to even arrest. Citizens' arrest can be effected if you are doing something is wrong. But then there must be exactly, there should be way so that there is credibility. It is when there is absence of transparency and credibility in the system that people will want to subvert the system. But once it is shown to be credible, to be transparent, there will be no need to subvert it. I believe and I urge INEC to work and give Nigerians back hope that they are going to do what is right, and I urge Nigerians to take the extra mile and go out and vote those who should lead them for the next 4 years. Thank you very much, Kingsley.
Thank you, General. And moving on here, back in the studio, Dr. Enes Reke, I'll start with you. You're a lecturer in political science at the University of Abuja. The democracy in Nigeria has been evolving since the beginning of democracy, that is after independence, and followers are getting wiser and working towards deepening the system. Do you think that this postponement has in any way changed that perspective?
Well, I think we can tell from the interview we watched before we started discussion. It's different strokes for different folks. A lot of people will definitely be discouraged, while so many will equally be encouraged. However, my concern really is with rebuilding confidence, as Lawmaker said. And to rebuild confidence will require that institutions of democracy will get to work. Yes, we have seen INEC trying to build that confidence, but really we expected that political parties, who ultimately will be the greatest beneficiaries of a properly conducted election, where people turn out to vote en masse, should have gone out to rebuild confidence in the electorates, to assure them that elections will still hold, elections will be peaceful, and they should turn out to vote in those elections. Because really, from 1999 up to date, 2019 makes it 20 years. 1999, we had about 50 or 60-something% voter turnout. The highest we have had was 2003. And since 2003, we have continued to record a progressive decline of voters' turnout in elections. The lowest we had was 2015, where we had about 43% of total registered voters turn out to vote in those elections. And partly, so many reasons could be adduced for the low turnout. It could be as a result of insecurity. It could also be as a result of the postponement of the elections. And so we expected, even though there are so many other factors responsible for increasing voter apathy in Nigerian elections, but we expected that political parties should have done a study to find out why people are not turning out to vote in elections. Does postponement affect people coming out? So that they will be able to find out ways and means through which they can rebuild confidence in their electorates to turn out to vote in those elections. Because really, as I said earlier, the greatest beneficiaries will be political parties who are fielding candidates in the elections. But parties have failed to do the needful in this regard. Rather, as everybody here has said, they have engaged in name-calling, attacking each other in the media, and so on. So parties have really failed. And like we always say, if democracy will lead us to, if democracy is a road that takes us to the point of El Dorado, political parties are the vehicles through which this road will be traveled. And if parties are not doing the needful, then democracy will really suffer, as we are witnessing in Nigeria.
Dr. Ernest Sereke, thank you very much. Let's bring in now Dr. Mohammed Osman, who is of the Center for Legislative Studies in Africa, and is also an observer in the elections. Tell us what you have observed, between Saturday and now, with regard to the voters and other institutions or the so-called stakeholders in the electoral process.
As you can see, I'm wearing two caps. Let me remove the first because I look like a masquerade. Now, I appreciate all the opinions that have been advanced. And you have forgotten the stakeholders in this process of election, because election is a process. And also, lastly, you have forgotten the observers that are domestic and international observers, whose schedule of observing this election might really be the presidential election and House of Assembly, House of Representatives with the Senate, and then some will go and leave others to observe the last lap of the election. Their schedule also had been disorganized, and so they also need an apology, not only to the Nigerians and to also observers, both domestic and international. Let truth be told, have actually said it as it is. Having said that, the civil society organizations are stakeholders, serious stakeholders in this process. And also, we have not talked about the physically challenged, who also have moved to their domain to also observe this election, to also participate in the electoral process. Now, this observation is a process of activity organized before, during, and after elections. And we observe set standards that are recognized by an independent body in any country. And in observing those, you find to advise on flaws and challenges of the elections. And here we are all set to observe. And then even the observation was postponed till 23rd. So I think that by and large, we cannot overflog the issue. We cannot keep blaming INEC for so many reasons. That seat is hot, and then to organize an election in Nigeria is not a tea party. We must understand that. We must also give Mahmoud Professor Mahmoud, a very good reason. This postponement, when it was done, I was first very angry and annoyed. Then suddenly something came into my mind. I said that, look, the president himself had traveled all the way to Daura. All other government functionaries have gone. If these people had known that this election will be postponed, most of them wouldn't have gone. This is one fact. Secondly, the independent body said, INEC said, through Professor Jega said that it is their responsibility. They have taken responsibility of that. So I look at the speech and then I was happy. Happy because this indeed is an independent body. So I gave them more trust. Because if they will stay and do that, despite the fact that I'm not supporting last minute postponement for everybody's psychology to be defeated, no, I'm not supporting that. But for the fact that an independent body will stay and on the responsibility of postponing the election, no matter what, really shows that they are independent. This is one mark which is very important. Secondly, INEC is not a one-man show. You have federal commissioners, you have people of immense knowledge. You have legal luminaries in INEC. You have, again, elders. And in the logistics committee that I have studied process of INEC election since 1999. And I give them a very good mark in the way they move the materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive materials. When you look at the hubs where these materials land, as they are very secured, most of the sensitive materials are not printed here. And a week or days before the election, they land first of all in Lagos, with the SS, with the aviation authorities, with FAA, with immigration, with customs, the police, and then the army. Receive these materials in Lagos. The second hub where it lands through the air by massive distribution is Port Harcourt, Kano, and Abuja. These are the hubs. And then once they land there, they go straight to Central Bank. And INEC will stay and look at the plan, their elaborate plan of how the resident electoral commissioners will receive these things down to the local governments and then to the district.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking in favor of INEC.
Sorry, Dr. Mohammed Usman. Yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, we discussed the logistics challenges that INEC faced, and we had experts in logistics who also dealt with this. Well, we're just looking today much more closely at the electorate, the voters, and that's what most of the guests, of course, have been speaking to. So could we focus more on that? From your observation around the field, what is it that you are saying with respect to the voters, and what more would you like to see in the next 48 hours?
Well, I've seen a support for a regime that is undying. That is one fact. I've seen a support for a particular regime, no matter the difficulty, no matter the challenges, that is undying. That is one fact. Secondly, I have seen a significant disappointment and psychological voter apathy on the other hand. So those are the facts. And I cannot elaborate more on this because we have talked much about it from the beginning of the clips on these issues. I appreciate that.
Okay, Dr. Mohammed, thank you very much. Let's come back to Dr. Lom. Before the postponement on Saturday last week, there seems to have been some clarity as to what the issues were in the election. But some would say that on account of the hot air generated by the various reactions to the postponement, voters would appear to have lost sight of the issues. If you were going to the polls on Saturday, what would you be woting for, or what would you be voting on with regard to that? Have we been able to bring back, let's say, the key actors? Have they been able to bring back to the consciousness of the voters what the real issues are to guide their choice?
Well, for me, I believe that voter re-education is going on. You know, the level at which that is happening may be debatable. But all around, you know, the TV stations, you know, they've been running with the renewed adverts of the two main political parties, and one or two others. I believe that 1 week is not really too far removed for one to lose a touch completely. For the reason you traveled, you know, out of your abode to vote. For me, if not anything, for those who would return to the polls, those issues may have been reinforced. Do you understand what I'm saying? They are receiving a bigger danger, depending on the perception. You know, for us in psychology, perception and reality are world apart, you know. What matters to us more is perception. How you view, you know, how you see the issues, not the way the issues are really. And for the voter who believes that the postponement may have been masterminded, depending on the side of the divide, the undecided voters are likely to move to the other side in protest. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, we understand.
I don't know which party who is saying as having benefited or having manipulated. So this is actually a negative process to so many people. And if you bring it back to your question and to answer it finally, I do believe that the issues for this campaign, they are clear, you know. The ruling party says, look, we are doing excellently well. We want to move you to the next level. Fine, that's the claim. The opposition party says, no, you haven't done, in fact, you have failed, and we want to come in and do it better. Now, the electorate themselves are not fooled by either side. He who feels it knows it. If you have been enjoying in the last 4 years, you know it. If you need change, you also know it. And the reasons why you would want to vote the incumbent party again, you should know it. This requires no education. It requires no, it doesn't even require much sensitization. It doesn't require much campaign. It requires what you feel, how you perceive governance in the country. Do you want it to continue, or do you want a change? For me, having looked at the issues from this perspective, I think that what the Nigerian electorate should be advised to do is to go on and fulfill what their conscience tells them in the most decent democratic manner. You don't, you see, like the Brigadier General from Jos was saying, you cannot reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already invented. Process. I had a principal. I was SA to Senate President once, you know, Senator Kenan Namani. He kept saying one thing that I took away from my work with him. Process. He says that process is far more important than outcome. That is what should concern us all. I don't care who, in fact, as at now, I no longer care who wins this election. What I am concerned with, which I want every Nigerian to be concerned with, is the process. Let the process produce the winner, so that whoever loses will know that he lost because Nigerians didn't choose him, and not that he was manipulated out of the process by those who took advantage of the porous nature of our electoral process. That is where I want to leave it.
Dr. Ernest Oreke, I saw you, reacting somewhat to what Dr. Lomefor was saying. Let's have your thoughts.
Yes, because I think it is too simplistic to assume that the electorate or the voters already know the issues at stake in these elections. And it is also, it would be wrong for us to also assume that we are well informed, especially given the declining turnout to elections in Nigeria. Like I said earlier, Since 1999, this is 20 years now, the highest we have had was 2003. And the figures continues to decline with every elections. And 2015, with all the emotions that went into the conduct of the 2015 general elections, we had 43% voters turnout, the least we have had since 1999. And therefore, it means that there is an issue with voter mobilization, voter education, political socialization, and sensitization. People have to be enlightened because, like we said also, there are so many reasons why Nigerian voters are no longer turning out to vote. It could be as the result of poor performance of those elected into offices. It could be as a result of political violence. It could be as a result of electoral malpractices. It could also be for other reasons. It could be economic reasons. And therefore, we should not oversimplify or wave away the important issue of mobilizing, educating, informing the voters. More so that when you look at the incidents, the high incidence of votes that are invalidated as a result of poor thumb printing. Now, this also means that we should engage in the process of enlightening voters. And so we cannot wish that away. And political parties, like I said, have failed to do this. INEC, yes, has tried to do this, but political parties have a greater responsibility because when you look at the functions, the roles of political parties, it also includes political socialization and mobilization. That they have not done as far as these elections are concerned.
Thank you, Dr. Ernest. And I'm coming to you, Bola Bakari. Nigerians, Bola Bakari, we've been talking, discussions has been going on across board on the social media, in the house, between families and all that. And then people begin to ask this question: what has happened to the message of the politicians to the electorate? Somebody told me it hasn't changed. It's the same message from 1999 to date. They keep going over and over, no issue-based campaign. Is that the truth?
Thank you, my sister. I'll tell you this. Over time, we've had our kind of peculiar elections. Nigeria is Nigeria. You can't compare Nigeria to any other country. We are us, we're what we are. And we have our own ways of doing things. You see, over time, because there is no clear-cut political ideology, it's just a mixed potpourri. It's a salad, multicolored. In this party today, in that party tomorrow, jump ship today, jump ship tomorrow. So basically, there is no clear-cut manifesto or policy document for the average Nigerian to toe the line. So as much as we think, oh, the average Nigerian, a higher percentage are uneducated, but there is that sensibility that is God-given, which everybody has. And over time, we've been looking at it, well, as the average voter out there, who is not partisan, they are all the same. And that in itself is an element of fact. But as we speak, now we're trying to hold brief for ourselves. We're trying to hold brief for the voter. There is an aspect in voting. It's probably 2 or 3 ways. For you to vote at all, you have to vote along 2 lines. It's either you are highly partisan or it's going to be sentimental. And when it becomes, the sentimental ones are the ones we call the undecideds and the independents, because I break them into 2. There are the undecideds and the independents. The independents are the ones that are non-partisan. They want to hear you make some sense before they go out to vote. The undecided means I have a little inkling about what this one is saying or what that one is saying or what this one is going to do or what that one is going to do. By the time we now factor these 2 people together, the independents and the undecideds, that is where, like my brother said, the element of the political party is now coming, because those are the people you want to win. The partisan politicians will follow you anywhere. And those people are not getting the right gist like you rightly said that, over time we haven't had some good issue-based discussions going on for the people to assimilate and then be able to think along with. But I would say, because the last time I was here, that factor was being raised, that most of these campaigns were non-issue based. But I would say this, the incumbent always has the advantage of being issue-based, because what he is doing is an issue for you to look at and then talk about. The opposition is now telling you what he will do if he gets there. So if there's anybody that has been campaigning based on issues, it's always the incumbent. I have done this, I have done that. You can verify this. Those are issues that are verifiable. Those are issues I want, like we are all agreed out here, for the political parties to come out more and educate those in the middle. Not the partisans this way, the partisans that way, the undecided and the independents. And most of them, we can categorize them to the upper intellectual level. They sit back and do some listening. If it don't make sense to them, they sit back at home and say, hey, I'm not going into the sun. I'm not going to go queue anywhere. So basically, the political parties have a tough job here. INEC, I don't call INEC the mediator or this. I call INEC the midwife of our democracy.
All right. Bola Bakare,
Yeah.
you know, you made your points along with the other guys. I just wonder, before we take this short break, take this along. My question originally was, is there a sense in which the voters might have lost sight of the core issues that were to govern their choice last Saturday? Now there is a new factor in the mix. Oh, okay, who instigated the postponement? So what should I do? What should I? These are the issues. Is there a sense in which that the issues have not been re-galvanized to say, look, no matter what happened last Saturday, this is why we are asking for your votes?
Like I rightly said, Kingsley, thank you. Let me reiterate this. The partisan politicians will stay where they are. The independents and the undecided are the ones that are going to dance to the issue you've raised now. Honestly, the truth says we're going to lose about 30% of them. Maybe due to financial situations, due to psychological discomfort, and many other reasons like that. But the political parties that can ginger them back online are busy having a battle between themselves. So basically, it takes people like you to say, well, bring people on board to now educate the average Nigerian that make up your mind. It is a sentimental thing. If you're non-partisan, you're sentimental. Make up your mind, go and vote.
That's part of what we are doing this morning, including yourself. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, of course, we'll continue with our guests, and more importantly, we also take some of the tweets that have come in. All right, welcome back, and still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's go over to our Jos Network Center again, where, of course, General Temlong has been listening to the comments. General Temlong, let's have your take on this. Once again, is there a sense in which the recrimination and other hot exchanges over the postponement of the elections would tend to have dampened the real issues that would guide the voters in his choice, and how, therefore, might the cardinal issues in the election be drummed up one more time, depending on the amount of time we really have before Saturday?
Well, thank you, Kingsley. I think what the two major political parties were trying to do is to make a political capital out of the cancellation of the postponement of the elections. Because the blame game, as it were, is to swear in the sympathy of voters towards them. But I think it should not be something that we should make the political capital of a very unfortunate situation. The important thing is that it's always very difficult to reject an election after an anticlimax, a major anticlimax that we had on Saturday. For the political parties to pick up the pieces again and start sending out their messages, we found that it was quite difficult. Even when INEC lifted the ban on campaigns on Tuesday, you found that it was very difficult for for the political parties to actually reject or move to some undecided states or actually travel out again and pick up their campaign trail and move. It's quite unfortunate. You know, coupled with voter apathy, which I think the gentleman there didn't actually see it, is not a Nigerian issue. Voter apathy is a worldwide issue if you go around and see what it is. And it's all bound on the fact that people are trusting government less. Because the government will tell you something, and do you trust your government? No matter what you say, do you trust your government to tell you what they are saying and what they are doing? We have reached a stage of watch my lips, and these watch my lips have come up to be a major factor in Nigerian political discourse. Almost all those who are in authority are saying something and doing something else. And that in itself makes it very difficult for the Nigerian voter or for voters worldwide to continue to trust government and move up. The political parties will go up and try to reject and educate people, yes, but then are they sure of the message you are sending them? Can they trust you? And that's the major issue. Because if you see the narrative that is going on in most of the places, they will tell you, yes, there is peace here, there is, the economy has improved, situation have moved, but what is it actually on the table of the average Nigerian? Can the average Nigerian move from point A to B and be safe? Can he sleep in his house and be sure? Yesterday, a reverend gentleman in Paduf State Polytechnic here, at 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 armed gunmen came and abducted his son. And you know, will that sort of thing continue to happen and you tell Nigerians that there is peace, they are safe in their land, and then you think they can trust you? The reality on the ground is not the same with what politicians go to tell them. So voter apathy itself is something that has to do with reality. It's not what you tell us. And the stakes are too high for elections. You see somebody in government office, you said people traveled. All the government officials, I bet you, none of them use their salaries to travel to their locations. They use government resources, government cars, government orderlies, government sirens to blow their way through. Some flew by air. Yes, yet we were moving with our own jalopies to our various locations. So you cannot start saying that people are spending the same sort of money. No. So, I mean, there has to be actual truth that these sort of things, you reduce the stake in politics, in political office itself, make it less attractive so that those who are serious to go and serve the people will go, not those who want to go and serve themselves. And this is the crux of the matter that will make the well-meaning people will not want to go and line up for you there and waste their time, and then you come back and be a lord. In fact, the first thing they do is to go and put in tinted vehicles that you don't even see them again inside the vehicles. Siren will be blurring people off the road, and a retinue of security, the phone lines change and everything. And so with all these things, is it worth it? Is it worth all the efforts? So we must come to reality and tell the people, live life than what it is in other climes. Mrs. Obama told us how much they were spending in the White House to feed themselves. Can you do that in Nigeria, even for state governors, even for local government chairmen? Can you do that in Nigeria? Can you tell Nigerians the cost of governance, actually, for the various government houses, the state house, and the local government chairman? Can Nigerians know that? If we do that, then you see it will be easier for the political parties to start galvanizing people. Now, the galvanizing of people, what they do is that the reality on ground is different from what is on a book. When you go to meet these people, all they want is for you to give them their own take now, because they know when you go into government, they don't see you. And that's why they ask you, what have you brought for us? And that's a very negative thing. So no matter what message you take, at the end of your message, if you don't give them something, it becomes a problem for you. So all these issue-based things, as you say, is not a reality. But then opposition is issue-based too, because when you start attacking personality, that's not when it's issue-based. When those in government tell us this is what we have done, and this is what we say we are going to do, it's issues. We're not attacking the people. We're canvassing issues that these people have not done, or what they have done, they have told you, does not add up or add value to your lives. So this is what we are going to do to add value to your life. So these are issues. So I think we have to get the reality from book to the reality on ground. But I believe that what we need to do again is to appeal to the voters. But appealing is that they should go out and vote. When good people stay away from voting those who should lead them, they should be prepared to be led by those who are not good. They must be prepared. So we have an option. The option is that we can remain in our comfort zone and face what is going on in the country, or we come out en masse and vote and change and get a direction and have a paradigm shift and be able to hold our leaders accountable for what they have told us that they are going to do for us. That way, we can be able to bring back sanity into our political system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General John Temlong. I'm now coming to you, Dr. Muhammad Osman. The social media has been at the forefront of this campaign. Most of the campaign has been on social media, apart from because when you go on the campaign trail, it's all about noise and shouting and dancing and all that. So the social media has been focused on issue, people coming across to discuss, groups of people. Now, what has the social media done? What role has it played in the general disposition of the elections for Saturday and then the governorship and House of Assemblies? What role has it played?
Well, positive and negative. Okay. But the negative psychological news that had been coming from social media had been so negative more than the positive side. Because here you are dealing with people that have emotions and their support is divided between the candidates and the parties. And it's good that you brought this issue, because if INEC, during the collation and distribution and dissemination of their results, are not fast, various fake news will come out from these results, and it will cause a lot of problems. By the way, they must seize this opportunity to beat the social media, and they must do it fast, within 48 hours. Having said that, there must also be an avenue where individuals in Nigeria and outside check fake news results. We must be careful about that. It's very important because, number one, these are issues that will be taken seriously on Twitter, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and so many other, Instagram and other social media outlets. So, and we are known, of course, to churn out fake news more than real news without authentication. We must be very careful about this, especially in this election and the results that are to be collected. We have to be careful. That is one. Secondly, I will come to the issue of this voter apathy. Kennedy in 1962 and 1963, President Kennedy of the United States, when he faced the Cuban Missile Crisis, and he called for a national security meeting on decisions about what they should do about that issue. It was tense, and he is very known in throwing jokes. He said that in every difficult situation and challenging situation, of course, lies an opportunity. We have been faced with an election that has been postponed by an independent body due to issues of logistics, of papers that are printed. Number one, even the electorates don't know and have not been confronted with the specimens of these papers. This is very important. Secondly, is it not high time we start thinking about electronic voting in this country? We have a large data bank with this national statistics. Communications Commission today have large data bank of almost more than 100 million people that are using various networks. It could be exaggerated, but it could be more or close to the 80 million of 2019 electorates. Can't we start thinking on the technology to start thinking that we can eliminate paperwork, we can eliminate logistics of these papers to the states? This is the opportunity for us to start thinking about that, deploying those technologies. And we must align with the government agency here that are also partnering in issues of technology. Lastly, National Orientation Agency has not been seen to do its work. When you're talking about mobilizing voters, you are talking about political parties. What is the role of the government also? The government has an agency, National Orientation Agency. In the past, in the Second Republic, you see displacement of the political parties all over. They are pasted in villages, in nook, in crannies, and then in cities. And the electorates are well educated. Today, what is National Orientation doing? Where are displacements? Where are the community-to-community cinemas and also social outlets of speakers and cars going out with their people, educating the electorates? This has failed, and we must hold them accountable for that.
All right, Dr. Mohammed Usman, thanks for your comment. Let's go over now to the tweets that have come in from our viewers. Jide Mutiu tweets, we are placing too much emphasis on those that will travel to cast their votes. To me, their percentage is far less than those who will not travel long distances to vote. Voter apathy due to loss of confidence is one to address by all stakeholders.
And Daily Jack Solomon in the street says, going forward, whatever logistics that will affect elections should be effectively and efficiently addressed now by INEC. It will be catastrophic if it fails. Furthermore, National Assembly needs to take its vetting exercise more seriously as it selects officials to run elections in the country.
And Dele Mejabi tweets, now, a considerably lower voter turnout is almost certainly guaranteed, according to him. It's unlikely that many voters who live far from their polling stations will be able to afford the time or the money to make the trip again. But the declaration of Friday as a holiday could help to bolster turn-up of voters on Saturday.
Exactly, Twinsley. And Sani Michael Omokaji tweets, despite talking tough on media as if all is set for the rescheduled elections, the political side attraction and gimmick at the turn of events suggests that INEC Nigeria is far from being ready. Just this morning, sensitive materials meant for Kano were delivered in Oyo. Why?
Ilya John Bobai tweets, voters are not prepared to vote compared to last week. It says people who wish to travel to their various polling stations to vote but do not have the resources to travel. And slashing the transport fare and fuel prices may not solve the problem. How? It doesn't explain.
Yeah, and Sikiru tweets, he who fights and run away leaves the fight for another day. Winner never quits and we quitters never win. For me, I shall go out on Saturday to cast my vote to clear my conscience.
This is coming from Mogbalaho. It says, I think it's one of the sacrifices that one has to make as a patriotic citizen. Those of us who had to travel last week for the love of our country will either stay back or make another move today or tomorrow to go back to our various states or polling centers of registration to vote.
And Daddy G.O. says, truth is that many electorates were rudely shocked by the botched election. The country should expect voters' apathy because of the economic loss on part of individuals occasioned by the sudden development. I'm coming to you, Dr. Jude. Economically, a lot of people put in money into Saturday's election.
So much money.
Yes, so psychologically, how has that affected your business?
You know, when we started this program, I talked about apathy, right? What experimental psychologists call, differential, carryover effect. The feeling that there could still be postponement. There's a tweet here now drawing our attention to sensitive materials of states delivered in fact, days ago, I read the interview of the Deputy Senate President saying that even the results sheets for the entire Enugu state is missed. These are issues. And you begin to, and also I saw there is one Natasha, right, from Ekogi Central, displaying booklets of ballot papers. Right, booklets, and you wonder. Okay, you say this could be fake, right? A whole booklet, not a leaf, booklet of it's all over the social media, and it's not one of isolated case. You begin to wonder. The elections would hold, I believe, right?
I'm sorry, Lord Mefo, let me just quickly interject because we're getting signals from our director that we have just about a minute or two left. Some of these incidents we have talked about, they are fairly well known. I'm just wondering, very quickly, both yourself and Dr. Ernest Sereke, what therefore would you like to see to reassure the voter come Saturday that, listen, despite the letdown of last week, I'm going to the polling station today.
In few words,
yes,
right? Yes. NTA should give Mahmoud, right, Chairman INEC, a network chance to address Nigerians. I'm coming. These are my prescriptions. That is one, right? Reassure them this election is holding and integrity of the process is assured.
But I had a press conference yesterday.
I don't know how far that went. If we know that he would address Nigeria, it's different from having a press conference. This is very fundamental. This is one. Number two, Nigerians need to really give this one more chance. I know that the cost is so heavy, but it is only a reasonable sacrifice on our own part. I know that some people may also find it practically impossible to do again, like those who traveled. Some receive the permissions from their offices. They may not get that again. So may have, even with the rebates offered, find it difficult, if not impossible, to travel again. But those who could, should travel again. In fact, we should all come out and give this thing one more chance. We can. It's still within our capacity to do so.
Yes, we can.
Dr. Ereke, what would you like to see as, if you like, the ultimate ginger for the voter on Saturday, so that he gets to the polling station and says, oh, look, all is well, no problem, let me cast my vote?
Okay, quickly, maybe on the part of INEC. INEC has been enlightening the public every 3 p.m. since the chairman announced the postponement, and that continues until the elections are held. But what do I expect? I expect that the political elites, the major political parties, should tone down, the emotions and rather get involved in, encouraging the people to rebuild confidence in them to turn out in the elections. If that is done by the two major political parties, especially because people are already beginning to talk about violence in the elections. If the political parties can invest more to give the people hope that these elections will be peaceful and will hold as scheduled, then I want to believe it will rebuild confidence in the electorates.
Thank you. Bakari.
What's the final thought?
10 seconds.
My last word is to the voter. Forget about fake news, forget about social media. There is no PU on social media on Saturday. Go out there if you can and exercise your right. Thank you.
Dr. Osman, your final thoughts, please.
Peace and please, non-violent election, because we have already militarized the environment. So let's play it safe. Let everybody vote safely and await the result.
All right, that's Dr. Mohammed Usman, one of the accredited observers for the election. He's of the Center for Legislative Studies in Africa. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. From Jos, we were joined by Brigadier General John Temlong, who is a governorship candidate in the elections coming up next month on the 9th of March. General Temlong, thanks a lot for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And here in the studios with us, Bola Bakari of the Truth Be Told Network. Thanks for your insights. Appreciation to Dr. Law Mefo, forensic and social psychologist and journalist. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Ernest Sereke, Post Science Department, University of Abuja. Thank you for being with us on the program. So that does it for our conversation segment. Let's go over very quickly to our sports desk. We got a lot of action last night in the UEFA Champions League.
See you tomorrow for more. Remember, your vote is a right. Go out there and vote on Saturday. Kingsley.
I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I joined my colleague Juma in thanking you for being with us and also urging you, if you're a registered voter, to go to the polling booth on Saturday and cast your vote. Presidential, National Assembly elections. Have a lovely day ahead of you.